The first time I kissed her, I laughed right after. Not because it was funny, God. No, but because I realized I had been lying to myself for 21 years, and the truth had just slammed into me with the taste of her lips. And the worst part? She wasn't even supposed to like girls. It all started in the dorm that spring semester. You know the kind of place. Cinder block walls painted a depressing beige, a single window with blinds that never worked right, and the faint smell of stale ramen that seemed permanently baked into the air. College was supposed to be about freedom, about trying things, about making mistakes you could still laugh about years later. But for me, college had become about one thing, her. Her name was Madison Hayes. Senior year, business major, golden girl of the university. She was tall, with hair that fell in glossy chestnut waves, the kind of girl who seemed born to lead sororities, ace interviews, and marry well before 30. Madison was the type of woman who insisted loudly and often, "I like guys. Period. Don't even joke about it." And yet, every night she ended up on my bed. Not in the way you think, not at first. She'd claim her roommate snored too loudly, or that the Wi-Fi in her room sucked, or that she needed someone to rant to about the asshole frat boy she was half-dating. So she'd curl up next to me, the scent of her vanilla lotion clinging to the sheets, and talk until her voice turned soft with sleep. I never dared move closer. I never dared imagine what it would be like to slide my hand into hers in the dark. But imagination has a way of torturing you when you're young, lonely, and desperately in love with someone who keeps reminding you they could never, ever feel the same. The irony? Madison was the one who started it. One night in late March, after the kind of day that leaves you cracked open and raw, she showed up at my door with eyes red from crying. "He cheated," she whispered, voice wobbling. "I saw him with her. Can you believe it?" She didn't wait for me to answer. She just collapsed onto my bed, face pressed into my pillow, her tears soaking into the fabric. I stroked her hair the way you'd soothe a child, each strand slipping like silk through my fingers. My chest ached because here was the girl I wanted most in the world, broken by someone who didn't deserve her, and all I could do was sit there and wish. She turned her face to me then, eyes glistening. "Why do I always go for guys like him?" My laugh was bitter. "Because you don't see what's right in front of you." The air went still. For a second, I thought she'd misunderstood, that my words had slipped past her grief unnoticed. But then she blinked, her breath catching. "What do you mean by that?" And just like that, the walls I had built around myself, walls of denial, of fear, of self-preservation, crumbled. I wanted to lie. I wanted to brush it off as a joke. But instead I whispered, "You know exactly what I mean." Her lips parted in shock. "No. Don't say that. I'm not. Not what?" I pressed, my pulse hammering. "Not curious? Not lonely? Not wondering why you end up here every night?" She stared at me wide-eyed, like I had just spoken the one truth she'd spent years trying to bury. And then she shook her head, as if the motion alone could erase the moment. "I like guys," she muttered, almost to herself. "I've always liked guys." I should have let it go. I should have nodded, smiled, pretended. But there are moments in life where your heart decides it's done playing safe. My hand moved before my brain could stop it, fingers brushing against hers. She flinched but didn't pull away. "Then why does it feel like this?" I asked softly. That was the first time I kissed her. Her lips were trembling, unsure. But the instant they touched mine, everything exploded: fear, relief, desire, grief, all tangled into one electric jolt that left us gasping. And then I laughed. I laughed because it was ridiculous, because she was supposed to be straight, because I had never felt more alive. She shoved me back with a gasp, her face blazing red. "No. We can't. Dawn, this isn't," but her denial was weak, fractured. She couldn't even meet my eyes. "Madison," I whispered, "you don't have to say it. Just stop lying to yourself." Silence. The hum of the old dorm fridge filled the space between us. Then slowly she rose, her chestnut hair falling across her flushed cheeks, her voice barely audible. "Do you have any idea how terrifying this is?" I nodded. "Every second." She closed her eyes, trembling. And when she opened them again, there was a fire I had never seen before. "Then kiss me again." That was the beginning of our unraveling. For weeks we existed in a secret orbit around each other, pulled together by a force neither of us could name out loud. In public, she was still Madison Hayes, straight girl extraordinaire. She'd laugh loudly when someone asked about her dating life, roll her eyes at the thought of another frat boy. But behind closed doors, in the suffocating intimacy of my dorm room, she was something else. Something raw. Something real. We kissed until dawn some nights, our laughter muffled against each other's skin. Other nights we fought, panic, pull away, hurl words like weapons. This is wrong. You're ruining me. I don't even like you that way. But then she'd come back every time, whispering apologies against my collarbone, tears dampening my shirt. I don't know who I am anymore, she'd confess. And I'd hold her tighter, even as my heart bled, because I knew the truth she wasn't ready to face. We were in love. And love, as it turns out, doesn't give a damn about the boxes you try to shove it into. That spring the nights grew warmer. Students sprawled across the quad, the scent of barbecue lingering in the air, laughter echoing off brick walls. To anyone else life was ordinary. But for us it was a season of constant fear of being found out, fear of what it meant, fear of each other. One night, after a campus party where she spent the whole evening flirting with some football player, Madison stormed into my room with eyes blazing. "Why are you looking at me like that?" she snapped. "Like what?" I asked, my chest tight. "Like I'm supposed to belong to you." I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her. Instead I whispered, "Because you do." She froze. And in that silence I saw the war inside her, the way she wanted to run but also wanted to stay. Finally she whispered, "If anyone ever finds out, I'm done. My family, my friends, my future, they'll never forgive me." "Then don't tell them," I said, almost pleading. "Stay here. Stay with me. Just for tonight." Her tears fell then, silent and hot, splashing against my arm as I pulled her close. And for that night at least she stayed. Madison wasn't a storm. She was the silence before it. The aching pause where you can hear your own heartbeat too loudly. Being with her felt like waiting for lightning. Like knowing the sky was about to break, and yet craving the crash when it did. After that night, the kiss that neither of us could take back, everything changed. She stopped sleeping over as often. When she did, she curled as far away from me as the narrow bed would allow, as though the 2 feet of space between us could erase the memory of her lips on mine. But memory doesn't play fair. It haunted us in the quiet moments, her hand brushing mine while passing a notebook in class, the way our eyes met across the cafeteria, the sharp hitch in her breath when my laughter caught her off guard. It was like trying to hold a fire behind glass. The more we tried to ignore it, the brighter it burned. One Saturday afternoon, I found her on the campus green, stretched out on a blanket with a group of friends. Her sunglasses reflected the sun, her laugh rising above the chatter like music. She looked untouchable, so effortlessly straight, so perfectly composed. And then her gaze found mine. For half a second the world narrowed to just us. Her smile faltered. A flicker of panic crossed her face. Then she looked away too quickly, pretending I wasn't there at all. The rejection stung more than I wanted to admit. I turned on my heel and left, anger bubbling in my chest. Anger not just at her, but at myself for hoping, for believing, for wanting so much it hurt. That night there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find Madison standing there, hair disheveled, mascara smudged like she'd been crying. She didn't ask to come in. She just brushed past me, pacing the small dorm room like a caged animal. "Do you know what it's like," she snapped, "to feel like you're living 2 lives at once?" I closed the door softly. "Every day." She stopped pacing, turned to me with eyes full of something raw and desperate. "You don't get it. People expect things from me. My parents, my sorority, my internship, they all think they know who I am. If they knew about us." Her voice broke. "I can't lose everything I've worked for." "Then don't call it us," I said bitterly. "Call it nothing. Pretend it never happened." Her breath hitched, her face twisting in pain. "Is that what you want?" Of course it wasn't. But pride has a sharp tongue. "Maybe it's what you need." The room was suffocatingly quiet. Then suddenly she was in front of me, fists clenched at her sides, trembling. "I hate you," she whispered. And then she kissed me like she was drowning. Her lips were frantic, furious, filled with every emotion she couldn't name. I melted into it because no matter how many times she pushed me away, no matter how much she denied herself, she always came back. And every time I let her. When we broke apart, breathless, she pressed her forehead to mine. "You ruin everything," she whispered. "No," I said softly. "I make you honest." She didn't answer. She just cried, silent tears slipping down her cheeks as I held her. By April, rumors had started. College is a fishbowl you can't sneeze without someone noticing. People saw the way Madison lingered too long by my side, the way our laughter overlapped, the way we seemed to disappear at the same time. Whispers trailed behind us in the hallways. "Are they?" "No, Madison. No way. She's too straight." "Then why is she always with her?" I told myself I didn't care. But Madison did. One evening she showed up furious, slamming my door shut behind her. "Do you realize what people are saying? They think she couldn't even finish the sentence, as if the word itself was poison. They think you're human," I shot back. She glared at me, jaw tight. "This isn't a joke. My reputation." "Your reputation matters more than me." The words sliced through the air like glass. Her face crumpled, and for a heartbeat, I thought she'd finally admit it, finally choose us over them. But instead she whispered, "Maybe it has to." The room spun. I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. "So that's it? You'd rather lie to the world than tell the truth with me?" She closed her eyes, her hands shaking. "I don't know how to be brave like you." And in that moment I realized love wasn't enough, not when fear had its claws so deep in her. She left that night. For the first time since the kiss, she didn't come back. The days stretched into weeks. I saw her across campus, always surrounded by people, always smiling too brightly, laughing too loudly. But I could see the cracks in her mask, the way her eyes darted toward me when she thought I wasn't looking. I missed her like a phantom limb, an ache that never went away. I told myself to move on, to let her go. But the truth was Madison Hayes had ruined me too. One night, drunk on cheap vodka and heartbreak, I wrote her a letter I never sent. "You say you're scared of losing everything. But what if I'm the only thing worth keeping?" I tore it up before morning. It was finals week when she finally came back. I was in the library, hunched over textbooks I wasn't really reading, when her shadow fell across the table. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice small. I looked up, exhaustion and longing crashing into me all at once. "Why now?" "Because if I don't, I'll regret it forever." We ended up in her car, parked behind the empty stadium. The world hushed around us. She gripped the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. "I can't stop thinking about you," she confessed. "Every time I try to be normal, to be the Madison everyone expects, I feel like I'm suffocating. And then I see you and it's like I can breathe again." Tears burned my eyes, but I held them back. "So what are you saying?" She turned to me, her face streaked with tears. "I'm saying I don't want to be straight anymore if it means losing you." The silence that followed was thick, heavy with years of fear and denial. And then I reached for her hand. "You don't have to have all the answers," I whispered. "You just have to choose me." Her fingers tightened around mine. For the first time, Madison Hayes chose me. Love, when it finally becomes undeniable, doesn't feel like fireworks. Feels like relief. That night in Madison's car, when her trembling hand finally locked with mine, I realized the thing I had been chasing all year wasn't her kiss, her body, or even her confession. It was this, the quiet certainty that she had chosen me, fully and without disguise. But the world doesn't stop for love. If anything, it tests it. The morning after, we walked across campus together for the first time. Not close enough to raise suspicion, but not far enough to hide it completely. The April sun glinted off her hair, and for a second, I let myself believe things could be simple. That maybe we could just exist, two girls in love without whispers or consequences. Then we passed her sorority sisters. "Madison," one of them called, waving. "We're heading to the quad, come on." She froze, her fingers twitching toward mine, then retreating. She glanced at me, panic flashing in her eyes, and plastered on a smile. "Yeah, I'll catch up." She didn't look back as she walked away. I stood there, heart cracking, reminding myself this was part of loving her, accepting the half-truths, the half-steps, the half-versions of us she could give in public. But that didn't make it easier. The weeks that followed were a balancing act. In private, Madison was everything I had ever wanted: gentle, passionate, unguarded. We spent long nights tangled together, whispering secrets we'd never said aloud. She told me she had known deep down since middle school. That she'd felt it with a friend once, years ago, and buried it so deep she almost convinced herself it hadn't happened. I thought if I just kept saying I was straight, she admitted one night, her cheek pressed against my chest, eventually I would be. And now? I asked. She looked up at me with eyes so soft they made my heart ache. Now I don't want to be. But outside my room she built her walls back up. At parties she flirted with boys just enough to keep questions at bay. Around her friends she laughed a little too loud, played the role they expected. And though I understood, it burned. One night, after a party where she let a football player wrap his arm around her waist for far too long, I snapped. Do you even care what that does to me? I demanded when she showed up at my room after midnight. She blinked, mascara smudged, smelling faintly of beer. What are you talking about? You let him touch you like you belonged to him. Her eyes widened. It was nothing. It wasn't nothing to me. For once she didn't have a quick denial. She just stared at me, her face crumbling. Then she whispered, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be yours without losing everything else. My chest ached. Then maybe you don't deserve me. The words hung between us like smoke. Her lips trembled and for the first time she didn't fight back. She just turned and left, her absence louder than any slammed door. Finals week was brutal. Not just because of exams but because Madison avoided me completely. No late-night visits, no stolen glances, nothing. It was like she had erased me from her life. And yet I saw her everywhere. In the library, hunched over notes. In the dining hall, laughing with friends. On the quad, stretched out in the sun like nothing had changed. She was pretending. And I was dying. One night I found myself standing outside her sorority house, staring up at the windows, wondering if she was inside thinking of me. I hated myself for being that girl. The one who waited in the shadows, desperate for scraps of love. I turned away, swearing I'd be done for good. But love isn't something you can quit like a bad habit. The breaking point came at graduation rehearsal. We were both in line, caps in hand, waiting for instructions, when our eyes met across the gymnasium. For a moment everything else blurred: the chatter of students, the squeak of sneakers on the polished floor, the droning voice of the coordinator. Her eyes softened. Then, as if on instinct, she took a step toward me. But one of her sorority sisters grabbed her arm, pulling her back into their circle. Madison hesitated, glancing between me and them. And then she smiled at them, that perfect fake smile she had mastered, and turned away. Something inside me snapped. When rehearsal ended, I didn't wait for her. I walked straight out of the gym, out of the building, out of the illusion that we were ever going to be real. She found me that night. Of course she did. My dorm room door rattled with her knock. Please, she begged when I opened it, her voice breaking. Don't shut me out. I shook my head, tears stinging my eyes. I can't do this anymore, Madison. I can't keep being your secret. Her shoulders shook. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm scared. So am I whispered. But the difference is, I'm still choosing you. She froze. Her lip trembled. And then finally the truth spilled out. My mom, she said. She's not like yours. She talks about how disgusting it is, how unnatural. If anyone in my family knew they'd cut me off, I'd lose them. The pain in her voice was so raw it silenced me. Because this wasn't just about fear of judgment or whispers on campus. This was about love, the kind of love that raised you, the kind you weren't ready to lose, even if it was conditional. I don't want to lose them, she whispered. But I don't want to lose you either. And there it was, the impossible choice. We sat in silence for a long time. Her hand hovered inches from mine, not daring to close the gap. I stared at it, my heart splitting down the middle. Finally I said, you don't have to choose tonight. But one day you will. And when that day comes, I need to know I wasn't just a phase. I need to know you loved me. Tears slipped down her cheeks. She nodded slowly. I do. I love you. More than I should. More than I can admit to anyone else. But I do. It wasn't enough. And yet it was everything. Graduation came with all its pomp and ceremony, the gowns, the speeches, the cheers. Madison looked radiant in her cap and gown, her chestnut hair shining under the sun. From my seat across the field, I watched her throw her cap into the air, her laughter ringing out like music. To everyone else she was perfect. To me, she was the girl who had kissed me in the dark, cried in my arms, confessed her fear and her love in the same breath. We didn't speak that day. Maybe because we both knew this wasn't the end, but it wasn't the beginning we wanted either. Love stories aren't always clean. Sometimes they're jagged, unfinished, waiting. And ours was still waiting. The weeks after graduation felt like standing on a cliff's edge, staring down at an unknown future. Campus emptied, friends scattered across the country, and suddenly the safety net of dorm rooms and lecture halls was gone. Madison and I drifted, each too afraid to ask the question that hovered between us. What now? She moved back to her hometown in Virginia, taking a job at her father's firm. I stayed in New York for grad school, chasing a future that had nothing to do with her, but still carried her shadow. We texted sometimes. Short, polite updates that masked the ache beneath. But every message ended the same way. I miss you. I miss you too. It wasn't enough. It never was. Summer turned to fall, and one chilly evening I got a call that changed everything. Hey! Her voice cracked through the static. I can't do this anymore. My heart stopped. Do what? Pretend. Hide. Live someone else's life. I sat down hard on the edge of my bed, the city lights spilling through the window. Madison. I told my mom. Her breath shuddered. She cried. She yelled. She said things I never thought I'd hear her say. But she didn't throw me out. She didn't stop loving me. She just doesn't understand yet. Tears burned my eyes. That's brave. She laughed weakly. It doesn't feel brave. It feels like I've been walking around with a mask for so long, and I finally ripped it off. And now I don't know who I am without it. Yes, you do, I whispered. You're the girl I fell in love with. The one who made me laugh until I couldn't breathe. The one who kissed me like the world was ending. That's who you are. Silence hummed across the line. Then softly she asked, Can I come see you? 2 days later she was standing outside my apartment building in New York, clutching a suitcase, her chestnut hair pulled into a messy bun. She looked different, tired, nervous, stripped of her perfect facade, but when her eyes found mine, it was like the last year had never happened. I didn't hesitate. I ran to her and she dropped the suitcase, and suddenly we were in each other's arms, clinging like survivors. You're here, I breathed. I'm here, she whispered back, her voice breaking. And I'm not running anymore. Living together in the city wasn't easy. Madison struggled with her family's half-acceptance, her friends' confusion, her own lingering fears. Some nights she woke in tears, whispering, What if I ruin everything? And every time I held her tighter. Then we'll rebuild it together. We learned how to be a couple in small ways, burning pancakes on Sunday mornings, fighting over who forgot to buy toilet paper, dancing barefoot in the kitchen when the world felt too heavy. We argued too, but even our fights had a strange sweetness because they were real. The girl who once swore she was straight learned how to lace her fingers through mine on the subway, unbothered by stares. She learned how to smile when strangers asked if we were together, instead of flinching. She learned how to let her love be seen. And I learned patience. I learned that healing doesn't happen overnight, that closets don't vanish just because the door swings open once. I learned that love is not a straight line. It's messy, complicated, full of detours. But it was ours. A year later, on the anniversary of the night everything began, we went back to campus. The dorm was still there, the beige cinderblock walls as lifeless as ever, the blinds still broken. We snuck in, giggling like the students we used to be, and found our old hallway. This is it, she whispered, standing outside my former door. Where I ruined my perfect life. I turned to her, heart swelling. No. Where you started your real one. She smiled then, a smile that reached her eyes, and kissed me right there in the hallway. No fear, no hesitation, just love. Students walked by, some staring, some not caring at all. And for the first time she didn't flinch. She just held my hand tighter. Love stories don't always end with wedding bells or fairy tales. Ours ended with something better. Honesty. Madison Hayes, the senior who swore she was straight, had finally stopped lying to the world, to me, and most importantly to herself. And in the dim light of that old dorm hallway, with her lips on mine and the future wide open before us, I knew one thing for certain. We hadn't just proved her wrong that night. We had proved love right. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.